IDW Sonic Free Comic Book Day 2022. It starts with Sonic and Tails heading to Angel Island with a biplane. When is something new gonna happen? It's nice that Sonic says he never gets tired of that view. Tails tells him to brace himself because he's bringing the plane down. Naturally, because you'd think he'd fly off the wing of the plane when he lands it. It's like there's iron in his shoes and it's magnetically held to the wing as long as he wants to stay on it. It's too bad they don't explain that. Sonic shows up and says happily that he can't remember the last time Knuckles invited him and Tails up here. And Knuckles calls him out on bringing the metal virus to his island, even though he should know he had no other safe place to go, and if he hadn't gone there, since Eggman and Starline went there too, they never would have solved the virus problem without going to the island with his warp topaz. The point is, he's being too selfish, and I don't see how he missed the point so much. So what if his island was kept safe from it? The world would have never gone back to normal, and he'd have gone mad from loneliness. Well, it didn't happen earlier, so the Master Emeralds must have made him immune to that. Tails makes Knuckles stop being mad at Sonic. Knuckles says there's been some strange rumblings in Marble Garden, and his reasoning for asking for help is that they work well together. He must mean he, Sonic, and Tails work well together, because him and Sonic not working well together is why they sucked as a team in Advance 3. I'm not sure it's that in character for Knuckles to ask for Sonic's help with an Angel Island problem. Even Sonic lampshades that he never thought he'd ask them for help. There's a lot more force the story could be. Even a stubborn person like him can swallow his pride and ask for help, but it's best not to draw attention to his story being unlikely. Knuckles says Sonic's a troublemaker and he can count on Tails to keep Sonic in check. He doesn't know how incredibly wrong he is about that, because Sonic always ignores Tails' advice and makes huge mistakes anyways. Getting Metal Sonic fixed, and prioritizing traumatizing Kit with the idea that Surge died first and foremost over returning him to his family. Even in the games, didn't Tails try to warn him not to kick away the conch in Lost World, and he ignored him? Knuckles only thinks Tails reels Sonic in because he knows Tails is smart, but he's barely around them, so he doesn't know he doesn't have the backbone to actually keep him on target by putting his foot down with him after initially giving him advice. Sonic wisely doesn't argue with Knuckles, and they start heading for Marble Garden Zone because at this point in the series, game references are seen as more important than new settings. Sonic says that place is on the other side of the island. He has super speed, why would he care? Tails says that'll be a long trip. While it's nice to see SA1 references, I'm still not gonna forget that Sonic has super speed. He could just carry Tails over to the other side of the island in seconds, and then return for Knuckles. At least AOSDH remembered how fast Sonic was. When you're playing the games, having to navigate around obstacles and levels slows you down, but he's supposed to have super fast reaction times, so in universe that would barely slow him down. Sonic says it might be faster to take his plane. What is the point of having a Sonic fan write the comic at times like this? Any Sonic fan, even any average person would know that Sonic's faster than a biplane. But the writing goes on, blissfully unaware of the forced out of character moment to have a cringe-worthy meta joke where Sonic and Tails argue over the pronunciation of Hydro City. Come to think of it, the reason this would never happen is that unless Sonic saw the name of the place on a sign there, which isn't likely for ancient ruins, there's no reason Sonic would have first discovered the name of it by reading. So he would have discovered its name upon hearing it, and Tails would have never had a chance to be wrong. Tails was with Sonic in Sonic 3, so the same goes for him. How would he have a different opinion? Plus, they've known Knuckles for so long that even though they barely went to that zone, it's so hard to believe one of them would mispronounce his name. Also, since Sega thinks Hydrocity is wrong, it's yet another instance of IDW Tails being portrayed as far from the genius he's supposed to be, without the comic even being self-aware about it like the earlier comics. I don't see how you cannot get the characters so badly that you make Tails the dumb one in a modern comic. There's barely any plot in this, and mostly just old ideas, so it's amazing that it's still so full of forced writing that I've talked about it for this long. This is why I prefer good comics. I'd rather be able to breeze through a story. Knuckles says it's moods because they can take a shortcut. What kind of a jerk is he that he didn't tell them about it before Sonic brought up the plane? Sonic appreciates the look of the blue cave. At least this is new. Knuckles explains that there's still places on the island that he hasn't had time to explore. Which makes sense when he feels like he has to spend most of his time on the island sitting in one place. He could have explored it all with a substitute guardian, but that'd require him to think. So they get to Marble Garden Zone, and just after they start discussing when Eggman was drilling around it, a drilling machine of Eggman's is the antagonist. And it could have been kind of creative, but Eggman's in it again. What was the point of this issue? There's almost nothing new here. This is literally the only story in the issue. To add insult to injury, the characters waste a bunch of time with boring dialogue. Until Eggman explains that he was digging for rare minerals. At least now I know I'd waste time drilling here. And it's sad that that's the only reason the story was worth it. Eggman's drilling machine does its thing, Sonic falls in a hole but Tails saves him, and eventually all of the heroes get up to him because most can fly and start attacking his machine. We really didn't need all those panels for this fight scene. This ends Eggman packing, and Knuckles says he wants to fully explore his island. How does he expect to do that and guard the Emerald? The whole reason he decided to stay on the island was that Metal Sonic found the Emerald. You'd think he learned his lesson. Something like that could happen again while he's playing Explorer. Yeah, it's not a charming story when all of the characters are annoying. I wonder who wrote this. Knuckles thanks Sonic for the help and gets called Buddy. Based on the wiki, the rest of the issue is literally just the main characters of Imposter Syndrome narrating the events of past stories. It could have been a news story showing an event we never saw before when Kate was in training. That's what I assumed it'd be. But that required creativity. What is the point of the story when it's got almost no creativity? You'd get excited for a new story for nothing. What's the point of having a story where these guys go to Marble Garden Zone and deal with the drilling machine again? Even casual fans are sick of old levels. So why keep nostalgia baiting like it's gonna make us love an issue on sight? You'd think if a classic fan wanted nostalgia, he would play Sonic 3 again. Of course, this issue is by Ian Flynn, and somehow manages to make a bare-bones, uncreative plot feel like it drags on forever. Sonic and Tails go to Angel Island because Knuckles for once wisened up and requested help. A miracle that conveniently ensures his victory. And while it's great that we see a new cave, nothing is done with it. It's just decoration for them to walk by before redoing the boss of Marble Garden Zone. Except Sonic almost falls to his death in a hole. So Eggman was smarter that time. But it'd be better if we saw him do this in a new place so I'd have taken it seriously. Instead of being disappointed that this repetition was the point of the issue and ate up the rest of the comic space. At least he explained that he did this drilling for rare minerals. It's sad that that's the only thing that makes the story worth existing because the dialogue between the characters on the way to Marble Garden Zone was so frustrating that I got tired of the story. The issue is somehow oblivious to the fact that Tails does not keep Sonic on target in IDW and entire arcs were the result. The supposedly smart and insecure Tails doesn't make it clear that he's aware of that. Even Amy would be better at keeping Sonic in check. She never would have let Tails fix Metal Sonic. Knuckles was shockingly selfish by yelling at Sonic for bringing the metal virus to his island, when he should know that was mandatory to get rid of it and thus be grateful he did. But all he cares about is that he could have stayed above it all. I guess his logic is he'd have never known anything was wrong, but he would have when he missed his friends and tried to visit them. Which he would do if he had any affection for them, and he'd know that. He visited Sonic unprompted when he went to his birthday party. More importantly, there's no way Sonic would have ever thought taking the tornado was faster than him running on foot. These supposedly minor problems add up because half of the story is just these stupid character moments with no plot progression. So they're half of the supposed appeal of the issue. and it makes it look like Sonic Mania Adventures had the right idea by keeping the characters from talking. At least there the pacing kept going and the story didn't get dragged down by tedious dialogue. I thought this issue was gonna have 3 stories.